Start now. Hello everyone and welcome to Ful-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today for our Wolves preview, we have a full team. Mozza, how you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. How you all doing?
Good. Drew, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, my friend.
And joining us for this part of the pod, obviously, we have just recorded our Palace review, which hopefully you guys have already seen. AJ, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm good.
Yeah. We obviously are here to talk about the quick turnaround from Saturday's game. We don't want to talk about Saturday's game anymore. We've all had a little moan up about that on our review show. But let's look forward to the game coming up tonight against Wolves. As this show comes out today, obviously the game is this evening. We have to discuss, obviously, what we want to change up, especially after Saturday's really disappointing result against Palace. Mozza, I'm going to come to you with this one, mate. I know we usually ask AJ, but I'm going to ask you because we had quite a deep discussion about the starting lineup and the subs and stuff on Saturday in the Palace preview. What changes do you think we need to see to the squad in this game compared to what we saw on Saturday?
Well, given our potential injuries, so who's it like we've got out? ESR, it's such a shame, isn't it, that he might not be able to start. Kenny as well. God, it's a double whammy for me there, isn't it? No, but in all seriousness, I hope they can recover soon, because I'm at a bit of a loss with what we do elsewhere. I think, is it fair if Diop starts over Anderson? In my humble opinion, yes. But if you've just watched our review of Palace, I would love to see the likes of Harrison Reed starting in midfield as well. Possibly Pereira, if there's somewhere that they can interchange that alongside changing the formation with Lukic and Berger. I don't know if I'd start them both together this time, to be honest. So I know I'm throwing out names and not really giving much glue as to how it would all work. But up front, Muniz as well. I think he deserves a start. So I'm not extremely confident about going away to the Molineux, especially after the first leg of the result that we had at Craven Cottage. But those are the changes I'd make, and I think they're risks worth taking.
AJ, obviously you weren't in our Palace review, so you didn't really see much in terms of the breakdown, and we were talking about the squad. I'm going to ask you a similar question to Mozza, because obviously I know the reason why you wasn't in our previews didn't actually, luckily for you, didn't get to see much of the game on Saturday. And I hope for your own sanity you haven't watched the highlights of it. But, looking at the game going into, the Wolves game on Tuesday night or tonight, we have to look at trying to get over the result on Saturday. But we also have to look at trying to revenge the fixture earlier on in the season where, arguably from Saturday and this one, they're the two worst performances we put in. Are there any particular changes that you would make formation-wise, like setup-wise? What would you change in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't catch a single minute of the game. Does that make me a lazy content creator? Maybe, kinda. Does it make me a sane person? Absolutely. I was at Stag Do. I fortunately didn't have the luxury of watching that Fulham result. But from what I have seen, it seems like there's been a bit of an abysmal performance all round, and with such two very tough fixtures in a very tight week, it probably suggests there'll be some rotation. Who gets rotated is a big question. I'd imagine Marco Silva won't want to disrupt the back line as much as we all probably think that Anderson probably needs a break just to regain some match sharpness. I don't think that'll happen, sheerly because he'll want to retain that structure at the back until they have cemented themselves in ironing out their issues. We've had a lot of rotation in the back line outside of Robinson throughout the season because of various injuries or suspensions, especially on that right side of the fence. So I can't see him changing that as much as we all may want to. The midfield is where it will probably change. Did Sander Berge pick up a knock as well, or am I just reading that wrong?
No, he
he
got
didn't pick up the
taken
knock,
off
he got took
because
off.
he was booked.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a substitute because he was booked. So we might have decent legs for the game then. In which case, we'll probably just see a rotation for Andreas into the ESR role. And then we might actually finally get to see either a Willian start or a Sessegnon start on the wings because of how the forward performances were from what I've heard on Saturday. I think it's a no-brainer that Muniz starts, which I think is a bit funny. I probably would have started him versus Palace and let Raul have the reverse fixture against his old side. But yeah, outside of that, I think it'll be Muniz up top. Maybe 2 changes at winger, although Iwobi might get pushed again still into the squad. There'll be at least 1 change at wing and 1 change in midfield. In my opinion, I don't think the back line changes despite our wants and desires.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too shocked. I think we really do need to see some changes in this game, though, because Saturday's biggest problem wasn't just how poor everyone was or how much things weren't dropping for us. There was clearly a lot of tired legs in the game, but we'll see how that goes. Drew, I was lucky I wasn't at the Wolves game at home, right? And I know you guys were all extremely angry about how bad we were in that game. We need to put a bit to rest, or we need to put in a performance that sort of makes up for how poor we were that day. What do you think we realistically need to do other than just win the game? Which by hook or by crook I'll take after Saturday's performance. What do we realistically need to see in order for it to be a positive result, considering how bad not only the reverse fixture was, but how bad we were on Saturday against Palace?
Well, at the risk of repeating what I said in the Palace review, and although I disagree with AJ's changes to the lineup, in principle, what he's saying is right. I think the team needs freshening up. The problem that I have is that I don't see Marco changing it. Marco is very much, he's got his team and he knows what his starting 11 is. But going back to your question, Ash, what do we need to do? It's got to be about attitude. It has to be about attitude. Wolves have come off a good win at Bournemouth. Okay, Bournemouth went down to 10 men. Cunha scored in the last 4 straight. They've pulled 5 clear of the relegation zone. This is their first home game in about 3, because they've been on the road for 3 games. They're looking at it and they're looking to put more daylight between them and the bottom 3. They have beaten us once, and they'll fancy that they can do it again. Now, if we don't meet them in terms of the right attitude, and if we're not physical at the point of attack, we talked about how flat it was against Palace. You could tell that it was all wrong because we weren't winning the second phase balls. And Ash, you made that point yourself in the Palace review game. And to me, that comes down to attitude. That simply comes down to attitude and hustle. And I know that we've got really good players, technical players. We all know that, but it doesn't matter if you're not going to go out there and you're not going to fight for the right to play the way you want to play. And it concerns me, as I said in the in the Palace review, that our points per game against teams in the lower half of the league versus those against the top half of the league is just ridiculous. And it has to be attitude, because it can't be talent. It can't be. And people are saying, I mean, Ash, you yourself has said, "Oh, it's good. We've got a quick turnaround." I'm sitting there thinking, is it? Is it? Because nothing that we've done. I mean, AJ and I went to Ipswich, and I appreciate, they had the home crowd behind them. But AJ, what do you reckon for actual football that we played? Probably about 15 minutes in the whole game.
It was shocking.
Yeah,
It was beyond shocking.
it-
And
a
I
lo-
think the worst part about that was that we came out of it knowing that that was going to be a staple for the season. We had that little chat on the walk back to the car park that we recorded and obviously got posted about how we can expect this against lower league teams. It's just Fulham.
Yeah, and so Ash, with the greatest respect, mate, and you know I love you. I'm not so sure that it's great. It's a quick turnaround because I've seen nothing from us this season. And let's be honest, mate, we're 14 games left till the end of the season. Okay, so we this is a trend we're talking about now. I've seen nothing from us that tells me that we're going to be able to go and put teams to the sword who we are on paper, and the league says we're much better than. So I'm apprehensive. Because if we come out like we did against Palace, I guarantee you we might not lose 4-1, but we will lose.
Yeah, for me, I think it's more just the mental scars of Palace that I'm happy that we can get dragged out of the way rather than there actually being a game. Because if game time tomorrow we see a such lineup which is similar to the one on Saturday, I probably won't even watch the game because I can't put myself watching some of the performances that we saw on Saturday again. And again, I was very keen after the Palace game not to blame the players, because you could see some of them were just sort of they were. It wasn't a wheel or skill issue. Some of them just looked like they were dead, and some of them looked like they had no energy. We talked about Raul and the fact that he was working so hard. He was trying to be everywhere and do everything, but by doing that, he completely lost shape, and we completely lost shape. Not helped by the fact that we're losing the game, so ESR is naturally ghosting behind him because that's what he does as soon as we're chasing the game. And we've already had a discussion about his mentality, especially in games where we need him to step up. For the first time in the last couple of weeks, Pereira came on a Saturday and didn't really change the game much. Where, let's be honest, we all agreed that him being dropped has actually been a good thing for him because the performances he's come on off the bench often shown have actually been really, really good. Didn't really change much on Saturday. But again, I also think that the sub that was made with him and bringing Tom Kearney on wasn't correct. And we needed, as Mozza said, we needed a bit of grit in the middle of that pitch, and we didn't show any. I want to see some changes tonight that show there's an intent to have a bit of still, and there's an intent to actually try and attack the ball. Because Saturday's performance of having 0 shots on target in a home game is embarrassing. It's woeful, and we need to see that we can do that. We know we play slightly differently away from home than we do at home, and we've seen a lot more consistent performances away from home than we've seen at home this season, and we need to see that against Wolves on Tuesday, because if we don't, they'll do what they did against us at home, and they'll compound and they'll beat us. They've had a couple of really decent results in the last couple of weeks. They had a really good positive result against Bournemouth on the weekend, and it's one of those things that we need to see what it is. We have a difficult amount of games left of the season, not just because we still have to play some of the teams that are really high in the league, but we also have to play against teams that we've already dropped points against that we shouldn't have done. So we need to see a good positive mental change for the rest of the season. We need to see it because, quite frankly, one of the things that I'm still doubting, and I know some of the people are, is as much as I love Marco Silva and the football he's got us playing, there are times when we lose a mental game way too easily. You look at the Wolves home game, you look at the West Ham home and away games, you look at Palace on Saturday, you look at Southampton at home, you look at Bournemouth at home, you look at games like that where it's not a skill issue while we've not performed well, it's a mental issue. And I don't know if it's a issue with the players' mentality, or it's an issue with the way that Marco sets us up sometimes that leads us to fail. We all agreed on Saturday that none of the subs you made on Saturday made a blind bit of difference into the game. They were probably made at the wrong time, and we all agree they were probably the wrong substitutions. We got a bit unlucky with Tom Kearney that he came on, then got injured and had to come off himself. I don't agree that Willian should be starting in the game against Wolves because I don't think he's fitness-wise he's just there yet. But I believe he should have had way more game time on Saturday than he got, because when he came on against Forest, he looked positive and he changed how we controlled the ball at the top of the pitch. You know, it's one of those things where there needs to be some heat on Marco Silva and the way that we played on Saturday. And he needs to have a reaction in this game against Wolves that shows that the reason why we all love him and the reason why we all agree that he is a genius, as we all like to say he is because he overcomes, and we need to overcome, because if we don't, the rest of this season is going to be a write-off. And we moaned way too long last season about being on the beach FC and how we just looked lacklustre and like we didn't give a damn for the last 10 games of the season. If we see that again this year, we're all going to go bloody nuts, especially when we consider that, you know, that we have a cup run as well we have to look forward to. We have to try and keep going. But mentally, we're not going to do anything there if we let it go in the league. We need to stay sharp and we need to stay on it. Lads, let's end this preview how we end all the previews. I know we spoke about Wolves at length before when we played them at home. I want to end this preview how we always end them. I want you both, all of you, to give me a player to watch out for. If we try and not all give Cunha because we know he's their best player.
But he
and a
scored
Fulham player
4
that
on
you-
the spin, Ash.
I know. And you look at Fulham, and you know maybe it might not be a player that played on Saturday. It might be a player you want to come in and see do well. Who do you want to see do well for Fulham as well? And then give us a scoreline prediction. You know, if you can, Mozza, I'll start with you, mate. Give us a Wolves player to look out for, a Fulham player that you want to really step up in this game, and then a scoreline prediction, please.
Thank you for picking me first, because I really don't know who else to suggest other than Cunha for Wolves. I mean, like you said, Ash, massive result against Bournemouth for them last Saturday, and they're going to be coming out guns blazing. They've still got a lot to fight for. You know, they're safe at the moment, but with these games left in the season, that they've got everything to play for in order to stay in the Premier League. So I'm sorry to be boring and uninterested, but Cunha is my pick for them. Yes, I see him scoring against us, which will come to my scoreline prediction in a minute. Is it too obvious to say Jimenez and Traore are ours to watch for? Probably. So, as you said, who would I want to see more of from our side? It's Harrison Reed. I realise, yes, he's just recently come back from injury, but I feel like it would be better for him if he's quickly. If it's quicker for him to be put into the squad more often than not, rather than sort of being drip fed back into the side, being on the bench. I think it's just a very important game for the likes of him, where he could make not necessarily the fans, but Marco Silva and the rest of the coaching staff remember, yes, I can do this. I am the Ginger Iniesta, even though I know that's a bit cringy. I sort of hate calling him that myself, but live up back to that old nickname. Did you ask for a scoreline prediction as well just now? Yeah.
To be, of course.
I feel like it's a draw. I'm just going to say 1-1.
I wouldn't even see 1-0 as a bad result, to be fair.
No,
hey,
I totally agree.
AJ, come to you, mate. Give us a player to look out for on both teams and a scoreline prediction, please.
Nori and Andre are my two to watch out for. Andre, for obvious reasons, the Fulham links is something, and it would be very typical of Fulham to have someone like that score against us or create against us or completely run the midfield, frankly. And Nori always seems to have a stellar performance against us, so I'm going to go with those two. Fulham player to watch out for. I said previously that I think William might start, but that was more of a prediction than an expectation. I don't necessarily expect him to start, but based on the performance, I think he might. If he does, he'll be a player to watch. If he doesn't, then it will be on Traore to have a big game against his old club, especially with how we've said repeatedly he has fitness issues, and that will be near enough 3 games in the space of 7 days for him, where he's played some minutes of every game. So it's something to be wary of. Scoreline prediction, I'm not going to even joke around. It's going to be 1-0 Wolves, in my opinion. I don't think we get anything from this game. I called it in our match preview to Palace, almost jokingly, that we'll lose our next two and then show up for Spurs and Arsenal, one or the other. And I'm going to stand by that, and I'll put money on Wolves taking points off of us. Unfortunately, and I want to be proven wrong. I want to lose my money. So please, Fulham, make me lose my money. Make it so that we can actually enjoy watching this tomorrow. I beg.
Wait for us to play Man United again.
Yeah, don't tell
Drew,
me.
how about you, buddy, mate? Give us your ones to watch on both teams and the
Well,
scoreline.
you said I'm not allowed to pick Cunha, even though I wanted to. Larson for Wolves. The Wolves fans are pleased that he's making his way back, and they rate him highly. Hopefully, he's still working his way back into match fitness, but they see him as a danger man. I'm with Mozza on this. I just don't see us winning. I just don't see us winning. If you gave me 1-1, you could guarantee me 1-1 now, I would take it. I would take it and run, because it concerns me, Ash. Our attitude concerns me against lower teams, and Wolves are going to be up for it. And their fans, to be fair to them, especially at Molineux, if they get up, they create a good atmosphere. And there's something wrong with our team. We can go to Chelsea and turn them over, but then we come out flat against Palace. So I think, 1-1. I'll take 1-1 now, and Larson, because I'm not allowed Cunha, but Cunha really.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want us all four of us to go, Cunha, and then leave it there. That was all it really was. No, Cunha, we have to watch out for. I think everyone knows that. I think I agree. Stan Larson is a player that I know Wolves fans are really happy he's starting to come back from injury. I know we got 45 minutes on Saturday against Bournemouth, so it'll be interesting to see, if we do. Anthony Nori is a good player. I do appreciate him as a player. He is good, and as AJ says, he always plays really well against us. But for me, it's Andre. Andre the player to watch, because the way our luck went on Saturday, and every single thing dropped against us, every lucky deflection went against us. It's just typical. He'll do something in the game. So I agree with that. I'm really struggling to see us getting anything out of this game. For me, a draw is a positive result, especially after Saturday. And I know there'll be people watching this who will be sitting there going, every single time you guys predict you'll win, Fulham mess it up. Every time you go super negative, Fulham get a result. But for once, I'm not just being the typical negative Fulham fan. I'm being a football fan who's seen the team drop an absolute howler on Saturday, and is just really struggling to see where the change and the confidence change is going to come from so quickly. As much as I want this game to be played in order to knock out the negatives from Saturday against Palace, mainly because I have way too many Palace fans that live around me, and I've already been reminded 4 times the result on Saturday. I need to get it done over and done with. But for me, if we can get a Desmond out of this, a 2-2 draw, I'll be happy. If we get any draw out of this game, I'll be happy. If we can nick a result, I'll be ecstatic. But I want to see a reaction, mainly, not just to Saturday's result, but also to the game earlier on in the season against Wolves, because both of those games were 2 real lacklustre performances from Fulham, and realistically, both of the results are a little bit embarrassing, especially when they're at the Cottage, because it's just not good enough from us. Lads, I know the Palace review podcast that we put out last night wasn't a positive one, and Drew and Mozza, thank you for joining me on that one. AJ, thanks for joining us on this one as we preview tonight's game. Thanks everyone who's joined us for this one. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, like the channel as well. Please give us a comment on what your scoreline prediction is for tonight's game. Is there reasons to be cheerful? Is there any reasons to actually be confident going into this game? I doubt it, but let's see if you guys are. Guys, thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you all on Friday as we preview the FA Cup game coming up on Sunday. Hopefully with a positive result. That means we're not all sat here so negative, but we shall see. Enjoy the game. Hopefully we get a result. Have a good week, and we'll see you all soon. Come on, you whites.
Bye.